Why do people follow a leader even when it costs them everything? If you're fascinated by power, belief, and the rise of movements, this story will stay with you. This limited series podcast reimagines a controversial 19th century drama in clear, modern language, bringing its timeless conflict into the world we live in now. It's a story about belief, influence, and the cost of conviction. The Prophet, a Tragedy by Bayard Taylor. Read to you by Jen Walden. Act 1, Chapter 1, 1830. The late afternoon sun stretched long golden shadows across the porch of the New England farmhouse. Lighting up the dust drifting along the dry garden paths, Elkanah leaned on the railing, staring out at the distant fields where the last of the day's work was wrapping up. "Looks like we're finishing the harvest just in time," he said, mostly to himself. "Everything should be stacked before the rain hits." He shifted his weight against a post, watching a wagon move slowly in the distance. "David said there's only one load left, but I think he miscounted. That far side always produces more than you expect. The soil's deeper." He let out a quiet, dry chuckle. "I used to underestimate on purpose, made it feel like luck was on my side. But he's young. He counts everything at once and assumes he's right." The screen door creaked open, and Hannah stepped out beside him. Her face carried a quiet but constant worry. "I heard you," she said gently, and sighed. "I keep thinking about him, just like I did before he was born." She folded her hands together. "People say late fruit is the best, the kind that lasts through winter, but it only ripens after the trees have gone bare." She looked out across the fields, searching for her son. "You may have forgotten the disappointments we went through, but I haven't. I carried that weight all those years. His birth was a miracle. I've always told David that it meant something, that God must have a purpose in it, in him." Elkanah sighed, practical as ever. "You couldn't help thinking that, I suppose." Hannah went on. "I think he's more like me than you. We've been married 40 years, Elkanah, and he's been here 24, yet I still don't always know what you're going to say or do next. But David, I understand him. There's something going on inside him beyond all this daily work. I can see it." "Come on, Hannah," Elkanah said, brushing it off with a wave. "He's grown. He'll figure things out soon enough." From across the fields, Peter, the hired hand, called, singing, his rough, cheerful voice carrying on the wind as he worked. "That'll be the last load," Elkanah said, brightening. But then another voice rose, clearer, stronger, and closer. David. His song wasn't about the harvest, but a hymn. Rhoda came from the other side of the house. David stopped at the gate, his face lit with a serious, almost radiant expression. "I was just thinking about you, and here you are." Rhoda smiled, looking down. He touched her face. "There's something about you, Rhoda. Something that strengthens me. You trust and obey, no matter what. Your heart keeps going, even when the mind might question. That's how the women who followed the Master were, and that's how you are. If I ever thought you weren't true, I'd be miserable." "I am true," she said, looking up into his eyes. The two of them drifted off into the garden together, wrapped up in their own world. Hannah watched them go, frowning. "Even his face is strange, most strange and beautiful, with serious thought, while hers is, I don't know. She's a child." "They forget we're even here," she murmured. "There's something different about him, his face, the way he looks at things. And Rhoda, she's always seemed so simple, not especially thoughtful, yet he talks to her about things he won't share with me." Elkanah laughed once they were out of earshot. "There's no mystery here, Hannah. You're overthinking it. You like to spin things into something bigger than they are. You think he's been set apart for some grand purpose, but it's nothing like that. It's just human nature. He's in love, that's all, and there's only one cure for that." He stepped off the porch, heading toward the barn. "It's about time he settled down. Let them dream all they want. They'll come back to reality soon enough." A few minutes later, David and Rhoda returned from the orchard, and Hannah met them near the steps. "David," Hannah stopped them. "We love you both, of course, but are you too sure about this? I haven't seen the usual signs. No hesitation, no uncertainty, not like young love usually looks." David met her gaze, calm and steady. "I don't have any reason to doubt her." He turned to Rhoda. "Your heart belongs to me, doesn't it?" Rhoda looked at him, her voice quiet but certain. "You already know it does." He went quiet for a moment, then his tone shifted, softer, like he was opening a memory. "Do you remember," he said to Rhoda, "that day when we were just kids, when we were out picking wild strawberries? I lay back in the grass and stared at the sky, It felt like the blue kept stretching farther and farther, like I was falling upward into something endless. And then beyond everything, I felt like I saw him. Just one clear presence, watching. Rhoda's eyes teared up. "You wouldn't talk to me that day," she said. "I thought you were upset with me." "We were walking home from school," he continued. "There was a storm. The wind was tearing at that big oak tree. You were afraid to go past it, remember? And I shouted over the thunder, 'God won't hurt us.' Then lightning split the sky." He gave a faint, almost strange smile. "You hid against me, but I felt alive, like everything around me was reaching out, pulling at me." "I remember," she said, laughing, tears at the corner of her eyes. David picked up both her hands. "That's when I knew it was you. It will always be you." Hannah smiled and nodded, pleased and reassured. Act 1, Chapter 2. A Camp Meeting. The grove felt almost like an outdoor cathedral. Old oak trees spread out overhead, their thick branches throwing long shadows across the crowd gathered below. Hundreds of people came, filling the space with restless energy. Between two of the biggest trees, someone had put together a rough wooden platform to serve as a pulpit. From there, the preacher spoke with intensity, pouring out both spiritual urgency and a strong warning about the law. David sat on one of the crowded wooden benches with Rhoda and Peter, surrounded by neighbors who were crying, shouting, or caught up in the moment. The air was heavy, crushed grass underfoot, smoke drifting in from nearby campfires, and a kind of emotional pressure that seemed to settle over everyone at once. A hymn rose up through the trees, slow and powerful, its words somber, about redemption and sacrifice. The sound carried through the branches, lingering even as the final notes faded away. "There is a fountain filled with blood, drawn from Emmanuel's veins, and sinners plunged beneath that flood lose all their guilty stains." When the singing stopped, the preacher stepped forward. His face was flushed, his hands tense, and he looked out over the crowd, ready to speak. His voice took up its old relentless cadence, as if nothing had interrupted him. He leaned forward on the pulpit, eyes bright, palms spread like the hands of one tearing at something stubborn. "There are still some of you I'll pull out like brands from a fire. I'll grab you by the hair that keeps you from falling into the pit." He spoke like a man who had been burned at the forge. "My hands are singed from prying souls from the devil's grip, and you people who should be fighting, leave it all to me, you cowards." A ripple of discomfort ran through the room. He kept going. "You think God can't see you? You hide like an ostrich burying its head in the sand. You can hide under mountains, but it won't last. He'll drag you out wriggling like mice. Dive to the bottom of the sea, and he'll drag you up like a bleeding harpooned whale." Murmurs and groans swelled from the back. Some covered their faces. The preacher pushed on, hunting the crowds with words. "Gnash your teeth like lions if you want, but he'll still hold you to account. Come up, tax collectors, sinners. Kneel, pray, mourn with the mourners, and be saved. Scrape the crust of sin off your feet and trade the devil's fire for living water." He singled out familiar excuses, like he knew them by heart. "I know you. This one's pride. That one's fear of what people will say. Another's fake morality, as if a freezer is better than an oven. I had them all myself. I was a worthless sheep, sick and ruined. He picked me up, anointed me with grace, and cleaned my spotted fleece until it shone." People at the front stumbled forward, sobbing and kneeling. He counted them like coins. 2, 3, 4, 5, each one worth 99 righteous men. These alone outweigh the rest of you. He moved across the small platform, eyes wide with conviction. Then his gaze landed on David, seated toward the center, shoulders hunched, eyes distant. The preacher narrowed his tone. "I see another sinner, but the heavier the load, the sweeter the relief when it's gone. You'll be forgiven completely, no doubt. He likes to forgive. Come, trembling brother." David didn't move. "You won't? Then do you not love the Lord?" David rose slowly, like someone surfacing, and answered calmly. "Whether I love him and how much he knows." Whispers spread. Peter, amused, nudged a neighbor, not the answer he expected. The preacher pounced. "Yes, he knows, but all men are sinners before God. Are you searching for a loophole? These mourners cry out for a reason." "Let him judge me," David said. He already is your judge, whether you like it or not, the preacher snapped. These are the devil's tricks, playing with holy words to buy time. Pick a side. The Lord means business. Where a gnat is enough for others, must you demand an elephant and have every promise shoved down your throat before you try it? A flash of impatience crossed David's face. Then determination. His promises, miracles, prophecy, speaking in tongues, he promised them to everyone. Paul confirmed it. Show me the signs. My heart aches with strain from faith. I don't need to pray except for power, the seal for those he's chosen. The congregation shivered. People exchanged uneasy looks. The preacher's jaw tightened. So seize hell, proud ones. You ask for tongues and miracles without repentance, prayer, or grace. For what should I repent? David shot back, voice edged with contempt. Why praise those who constantly confess sin? I never let a wrong stand without settling it, then declaring myself bankrupt so I can start over. Acceptance and faith are already mine, more than yours, who don't even know what to ask. Outrage rippled through the room. Out, heretic, someone cried. No sinner never prays. The Antichrist could say no more. How dare he face the preacher? Peter spun, fist clenched. The preacher goaded him and got what he deserved. Touch him and it won't be glory, you shout after you repent. David's reply was quiet. If I shake the dust from my feet, I do what was commanded. Who gave you the right to cloud counsel with your words, to teach part of the truth while rejecting the whole? Woe to the Pharisees and hypocrites. My words are said. David turned and left. Voices exploded. Angry, frantic, wounded. Men rose, women sobbed, the preacher's face flamed. Peter followed a few steps, then stopped as the noise swallowed them both. Outside, David walked on in the dusty daylight, without hurrying. The congregation argued and condemned, trying to stitch the rupture back together, but the break had been made and could not be easily hidden. Act 1, Chapter 3. The lane was quiet in the stillness of early evening. David walked alone, the cool air brushing his face, his thoughts piling up until he couldn't keep them in anymore. Cast out, he said into the darkness, by people who think they believe, punished for actually believing. He shook his head. God, then what even is truth? Out here, he thought, truth was like an old coin, handled so much the image was worn down, the words barely readable. He had brought it fresh, clear, untouched, and they'd called it fake. 10 talents given, 9 buried, and 1 split among the blind. Don't they see? He stopped, looked up at the sky like it might answer him. How do you get that kind of absolute faith, the kind that guarantees something will happen? He had looked for proof in the simplest ways and found nothing. Either I don't have enough faith, or, God forbid, there's no such thing. No power, no miracles. Maybe there never were. The thought made his head spin. If that were true, then everything fell apart. Truth would be a lie. Life would be empty, worse than death. The world would be full of confusion, people lost or losing their minds. He caught himself, forcing another possibility into place. Maybe things had changed. Maybe faith wasn't meant to be easy anymore. Maybe it took more now. Maybe he'd been wrong to assume that kind of power came freely. No one now could speak with the certainty of the old apostles. Instead, people were handed empty doctrine, words that looked like bread but had no substance. Perhaps if I could channel the spirit of the old through my words, my writing. Something in him shifted. It was faint, but it felt like direction, like a hand brushing his thoughts, pointing him somewhere. Footsteps came up behind him. Peter caught up, his breath visible in the cooling air. I was going to leave when you did, Peter said, a little out of breath. But I opened my mouth at the wrong time. He gave a short laugh. Turns out if you can't curse like the rest or throw insults like rocks, they aim all their holiness straight at you. One of them grabbed me and yelled, "Get down and repent!" Peter shrugged. So I hit him, scattered the rest, and got out of there. Let's move, he added. They might come after us. David barely reacted. And if they do, I have more right than they do. Did you understand what I was saying? As much as I understood him, Peter said. At least you tried to answer something he didn't. David slowed a little. If it made sense to you, but not to them, then they're not really listening. They need authority, proof. I'd have to earn that somehow. He glanced at Peter. They kept walking. Peter, restless as always, kept talking. There'll always be preachers, he said. People need them. They're afraid of what happens without them. I just wish they'd tone it down a bit. Half the time what they're reading is harmless enough, but then they twist it, spark something ugly, and suddenly everyone's worked up and losing it. He glanced sideways. You could have given them something better tonight, though, something comforting. Would you have believed it? David asked. Peter shrugged. Why not? You've got to believe something, don't you? The things I don't understand, I just take on trust. Anyway, it's getting late. Even the animals know Sunday means they eat earlier. He picked up his pace, moving ahead. David slowed, looking up at the sky. Everything felt strangely quiet now. The sky stretched endlessly above him, calm and untouched by whatever storms passed below. That was what people could be, he thought. If they could rise high enough, why keep fighting? Maybe we didn't need to struggle. Maybe it could just settle. Let go and take its place. Footsteps approached again, lighter this time. Rhoda slipped in beside him as if she'd been waiting for the right moment. I wasn't afraid, she said simply. What you said, it was true. You sounded strong, like you knew, and I think others felt that too. David stopped and pointed toward the horizon. Look at that cloud, he said. It's glowing, like it caught fire. It was gray a moment ago, and now it's burning. He paused. That's me. I can't change what I am. I can't escape whatever light is shining on me. And you, he looked at her, you're the other cloud. You join with it. And everything else, the crowd, the noise, it just fades away like mist that never even saw the sunset. Rhoda held his arm a little tighter. I was only worried about you, she said quietly. That something might shake you. You seem so steady, so certain. She gave a faint smile. All I can do is take whatever light you have and not waste it. David felt something settle in him at her words. You prove it again, he said softly. You're like a mirror. I can see myself changing in you, clear one moment, uncertain the next, and then brighter, like a lamp catching fire. I just hope I understand what you're meant to do, she said. I have to, or I won't know how to help. Will I need help? He asked. Rhoda shook her head slightly. Won't trouble come? She said. I feel it like a storm before it shows up. The air gets heavy, restless, not fear exactly, just something, waiting. Let it be, David said suddenly, tension slipping into his voice. Just wait. Be still. He exhaled. One step at a time. But it feels like I'm stepping into the dark, like there could be nothing under my foot. He shook his head. Hope, desire has done all it can, and you're left waiting for an answer. He looked around, almost dazed. Come on. I barely feel the ground anymore. Everything feels lit up. The sky, the air, even the hills, like they're leading us somewhere better. The three of them kept walking down the quiet lane, their figures fading into the deepening evening as the last light slipped away and night slowly took hold. Act 1, Chapter 4. Dusk had settled into the farmhouse sitting room. Hannah sat in her old chair by the window, the last bit of light outlining her shape. She couldn't stop thinking about what Peter had told her about the camp meeting. If even half of it was true, it would cause trouble. Not just because of Peter, but because of how he'd said it. Sharp, almost like he was provoking something. Men who kept things bottled up could act recklessly when pushed. And whatever Peter had started, it didn't feel wise. Where was this going to lead? The thought made her uneasy and a little angry. She remembered being younger, how she used to get worked up over things she couldn't explain, and now the idea of having to correct or blame instead of guide, it felt wrong, bitter. She hadn't opposed David's choice. If he wanted something different, something better suited, that was his right. But this sudden tension, this nightly unease, it felt unnecessary. Elkanah came in from the outside, squinting as his eyes adjusted to the dim light. He read her mood almost immediately. So you've heard, he said. I can't even see your face, but I know you know. He gave a short nod. For once, I think we're going to agree. Let's hear what you think first, Hannah said. My thoughts are the same as yours, he replied easily. I've always said you're as wise as any woman could be. There's no need to make this complicated. It's pretty clear. This is going to affect our name, our standing. No one in the neighborhood will take his side. How do you know that? Hannah shot back. What if he's right? What if he's not being reckless, but thoughtful? Should he be torn apart while we just stand by? That would damage our name far more. Elkanah threw up his hands. 40 years married, he said, echoing her own words, and I still can't predict what you'll say, even when reason seems obvious. Did I call you wise? I must have misspoken. The boy's lost his head, and now you're starting to follow him just to keep the peace. Elkanah, stop, Hannah said, but she didn't push back sharply. She let him vent. The last thing she wanted was to make things worse, to confirm something in David that might not even be fully formed yet. If David was right, they needed to be careful, not to act wrongly themselves. Please, she said more softly, be gentle with him. He's our only child. Before they could say more, David rushed into the room, breathless, his eyes intense. Father, mother, he called out. We're here, Hannah said, standing quickly. I won't call you anything else, David said, his voice strange, almost distant, even if everything else changes. Elkanah frowned, half joking but uneasy. Is that supposed to comfort us? What's happening? What are you talking about? This must be the command, David said abruptly, and then turned and walked out just as suddenly as he'd come. Elkanah let out a nervous laugh. Did you hear him? Acting like some kind of crazy authority? At least he still admits he's our son after causing all this trouble. Hannah had gone pale. She stood unsteadily. Please don't, she said. That wasn't pride. He wasn't even thinking about us. Something's happening to him, something beyond us. Either he's losing himself or he's found something overwhelming, maybe both. Her hands trembled as she lit the lamp. Outside, the darkness pressed against the windows. There was a bat just now, and I heard an owl, she said, almost to herself. Call me foolish later if you want, but right now, just be kind. David came back in and stood in the middle of the room. There was something almost otherworldly about him, focused, distant. Hannah stepped toward him, her voice shaking. Please talk to us. Tell us what you can. We're listening. David whispered a single word, almost to himself. Quarantania. It landed heavily in the room. Hannah tried again more urgently. That's not an answer. Don't scare us like this. Whatever's going on, you can't just keep it inside. Say something, anything. Silence is worse. This time he said it louder. Quarantania! He then turned and walked out into the night. Hannah let out a broken cry. He's gone. And with that, she collapsed, the strength leaving her all at once. Elkanah rushed to her side, the lamplight flickering as his hands shook. Act 1, Chapter 5. The valley was rough and quiet, surrounded by wooded hills. A cliff hung overhead on one side, and a narrow brook ran through the rocks below, its soft sound filling the silence. David sat alone among the stones, watching the second day slowly fade. Time felt strange, dragging, stretching. Every hour seemed longer than it should be. He found himself longing for night, for the cool air, the cover of darkness, the quiet movement of things unseen. Night felt like it might give something back, the clarity he'd lost in the harsh light of day. He tried to remember what had happened before. He could picture where he'd lain, leaves beneath him, the rock above, but the certainty was gone. Had it really happened the way he thought? Now everything felt dry. The shadows didn't seem to move, and his throat felt parched. He'd never noticed before how beautiful something as simple as a stream could be. The water moved so gently, so invitingly, he couldn't look away. If he drank, maybe he'd stay clear-headed. Maybe he could avoid slipping into something worse. Without thinking much more, he knelt and scooped water into his hands. He drank. It was cool, clean, almost shockingly good. The relief spread through him, and with it came a quiet confidence. A rustling nearby made him look up. A snake slid its head out from beneath the bush, its eyes fixed on him. For a moment, David thought of temptation, of something ancient and symbolic. He straightened, steadying himself. If it had power, let it show it. If not, it could leave. He held its gaze. After a moment, the snake slipped away, disappearing back into the brush. David gave a small smile. It felt like a sign, something small but meaningful. Then he stood and moved deeper into the valley. Not far away, another man watched from the trees. Nimrod Kraft. Kraft stayed back, studying him. He'd come because others were searching too, and because of rumors about David. If David had been driven out here by spiritual seeking, or even if he was simply overwhelmed, the best thing was not to interfere too much. Better to observe, wait, and approach carefully if the moment felt right. Soon after, Rhoda and Peter arrived, moving quietly along the brook. We should call out, Peter whispered, or sing something, like that hymn he was singing. He tried muttering a few lines and then stopped. I forgot the rest. Rhoda shook her head. No, I don't think we should let him know we're here. She wasn't entirely sure, but something told her David wouldn't want to be found like that. For a moment, a darker thought crossed her mind. What if something had happened to him? But she pushed it away. Some people were meant to walk harder paths. Some needed solitude. If he found them, she thought, she'd feel ashamed for doubting him. Peter frowned, impatient. "If this keeps up, I'll be the one preaching next," he muttered. "I'm actually worried about owls and shadows and nonsense." Rhoda looked around. "The real problem is, has he eaten? We should find him without spooking him, leave food where he can get it without seeing us." Peter pointed upstream. "I'll look for his tracks. If I find where he's been, I'll leave something there, somewhere open where he'll notice it." He took off with a basket, leaving Rhoda by the water. She stood still, letting her thoughts follow David's path. If he'd come out here, into this kind of wilderness, it must be for a reason. Maybe he needed to be alone, to find something deeper. Faith, strength, purpose. The valley felt different now, softer in the fading light. The shadows cooled the heat of the day. The rocks didn't seem as threatening, and the stream sounded almost peaceful. Night, she told herself, was just darkness covering things, not changing them. Nothing would harm him, if he meant no harm, and whatever he was searching for, he would find it. Otherwise, what was the point of faith at all? Peter came back before long, a little out of breath but pleased. "I found his tracks," he said. "Fresh ones right by that big rock," he pointed. "I left some food on a flat ledge nearby. Open spot, no bushes. He'll see it. Birds won't get to it before he does." Rhoda felt a quiet relief. She'd been right, but she didn't want to push any further, didn't want to ruin the certainty by getting too close. So the two of them stayed by the edge of the brook, listening to the water move, and waited. Act 1, Chapter 6. Nimrod Kraft crouched behind a patch of straggly bushes, watching David from a short distance. The valley felt hidden and rough, rocks, brush, and the dark rise of the hills. But from where he was, Nimrod had a clear view. David didn't seem to notice anyone. His eyes drifted up to the sky, down to the ground, then off somewhere else entirely, like he was listening to something no one else could hear. He was young, but there was something about him. He felt like he'd been chosen for something, like he was just waiting for permission to act. Nimrod's thoughts went where they always did. Had God gone silent? Or had people just stopped listening? Generations raised in the church, baptized and taught, yet somehow slipping back into something hollow. The old strength, the authority, it had been lost, but not in this young man. David, Nimrod thought. He wasn't like the rest. He seemed ready to claim something that had been forgotten, to bring back what the church had lost. Authority, obedience, structure, and purpose. And if something big was going to be built, David would need someone like him, someone steady, to help hold it together. Still, there was something uncertain about David. His lips moved slightly, like he was forming words he couldn't quite say. He looked unsettled. This was the moment. Nimrod stepped out from the brush and walked toward him. "I felt like I had to come to you," he said as he got closer, his voice urgent but sincere. "Like something inside me pushed me here. I need guidance, help. Forgive me for just showing up like this. I feel like that man in the story, the one who was healed and couldn't help but run." David looked at him slowly, studying him in silence before answering. "So I healed you without knowing it," he said at last. "Don't question it," Nimrod replied quickly. "You are what you are, and whether you realize it or not, that's where the power is." David's expression tightened, almost frustrated. Nimrod said, "When I saw you in the crowd, I knew you were someone who would choose your own path, not just follow. You're reaching for something higher. I can help carry what you bring." He paused, searching for the right words. "When you spoke, something changed. It felt real, not like the empty words I'm used to hearing. Some people just recognize each other. You don't need 1,000 words for that." He took a breath. "I won't guess what you're asking for, but I think you're getting close to it," he said. "I won't push, but before I go, let me ask one thing." He bowed his head. "Put your hands on me. Bless me. Help me understand more. Give me strength to act and to follow where I'm meant to go." David hesitated. How do you step into something like that? But the request itself carried its own weight. He believed, and that belief mattered. So David placed his hands on Nimrod's head. "As you've asked," he said quietly, "may it be given." Nothing dramatic happened. No visible sign. But Nimrod rose like something inside him had shifted. "That's more than I deserve," he said, almost overwhelmed. "And yet I feel full, like light just poured into me." He shook his head in disbelief. "People shout over the smallest glimpse of truth. How would they handle something like this?" He stepped back. "Goodbye. For now, you've opened something. When you fully understand it, come back to us." Then he turned and walked off with purpose, his steps quick and certain. David watched him go, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Nimrod had seemed strong, confident, and yet he treated David like someone with authority. Why had he doubted himself at all? Maybe he didn't. He now saw how he might appear to others. Dazzled eyesight, he murmured, realizing how sometimes being close to something so bright could actually make it harder to see. If power could exist without being fully recognized, maybe he'd had it all along. Maybe it had been growing quietly, hidden in the ordinary moments of his life. Maybe the confusion, the uncertainty, even the weight he felt, that was part of it. Above him, the first star appeared in the darkening sky, and behind it, he knew there were countless more waiting to be seen. Just like that first small light promised the rest, he felt certain that whatever he was searching for, whatever was coming, he would be there to see it through. Act 1, Chapter 7. The farmhouse room was filled with the last light of the day and the quiet hum of conversation. Hannah sat listening, trying to make sense of everything. Elkanah, on the other hand, had no patience for all the talking. To him, this was simple. "Words are not going to fix this," he said bluntly. "You've got a responsibility here." He folded his arms. "I've said what I think, and I'm not repeating myself." David stood calm but firm. He didn't sound defensive, just certain. "If I've hurt you," he said, "if my choices have brought you pain, then I understand if you're upset. But I didn't act out of stubbornness or rebellion. I reached out for something that was there, and when I pulled it back, I had it." He looked at Hannah. That softened her. But what unsettled her was what might come after. "If you graft a branch onto a tree," she said slowly, "and it grows fruit you've never seen before, you don't just eat it right away. You wait. You make sure it's safe." She paused. "I've hoped for something in your life for a long time, and now something has come, but it's so new, so unfamiliar. I don't know whether to encourage you or to hold you back. I don't know where it leads." Rhoda, who had been quiet until now, spoke gently. "Maybe we don't need to decide yet," she said. "I just trust." There was something steady in the way she said it, something that calmed the tension in the room. David shook his head slightly. "I can't turn away from this," he said. "Some people are content staying where they are, living small, safe lives, but that's not me. I've been given something different." Just then, Peter burst into the room, a little out of breath. "There's someone outside," he said. "One of them." He gave a half shrug. "Probably here to preach." Elkanah snorted. "Of course he is. Give people something new to talk about and they'll swarm all over it. Rumors grow faster than weeds, and preachers, they'll show up anywhere there's attention to be had." He waved a hand dismissively. "It's like planting seeds in rocky soil. Nothing real comes of it." Peter leaned closer to Rhoda, lowering his voice. "Everyone's talking about David," he said. "They don't really understand what's going on, but they're listening anyway. If he claims something like this, people are going to pay attention, whether they get it or not." With that, he stepped back and left again. Hannah looked to Rhoda, her expression softer now, tired. "Maybe it's time to let him go where he wants to go." Rhoda nodded, her voice quiet and sincere. "This feels like the beginning of something for him," she said. "And even if something threatens it, I don't think I can stop what's already started." Act 1, Chapter 8. The brook cut through the valley like a thin ribbon of silver. On either side, the brush had been roughly cleared, making space for a kind of makeshift gathering. People sat on rocks and tree stumps, mostly men, scattered between patches of shadow. The sky hung low and heavy, like a storm was about to break. There were small drops of rain and some distant thunder. They stood in small groups, talking quietly, unsure of what to expect. "This whole thing feels like a waste of time," one man muttered. Another shrugged. "I said I'd come, so I'm here, but I don't know if he really meant what he said." A third man spoke up. "I offered him a chance myself. He took it quick enough, like a traveler picking up a coin off the road. He's got enthusiasm, I'll give him that." But the rumors kept circling. 4 days without food, strange visions, stories that sounded older than any of them. "He's no different from the rest of us," someone said. "Give a man a little attention and it goes straight to his head." "Maybe," another replied, "but when he looked at me, I felt like he saw right through me. He made me feel uncomfortable and he smelled like he knew it." That quiet unease hung in the humid air. Then someone said, "He's coming." David stepped up onto a large rock, young, pale, but with something intense in his eyes. The crowd fell quiet without being told. At that moment, the sun broke through the dark clouds and lit him up, almost like a spotlight. He started to sing. Rhoda and Peter joined in from below, and the sound rose gently at first, then stronger, flowing through the valley like the brook itself. Oh, praise the Lord, the giver, receive his burdened hands, his miracles deliver the congregated lands. He poureth as a river, and we but take the sands. Someone in the back chuckled at the upbeat tune. Another grumbled, half the churches steal music like that anyway. If the devil's got the best songs, maybe he's the cheerful one and the angels are the gloomy ones. But David didn't react. He just kept going. When the song ended, he began to speak, steady but with a kind of rising intensity, like he'd been waiting for the words. What did you come here to see? He asked. Something weak? Something easily moved? Or something given a voice? He gestured slightly. Even something dry and lifeless can make sound if God breathes into it. He paused. I went looking for what's already promised. I just wanted to know. Are those promises real? He paused, then added, and when I asked, I got an answer. First, there had been a deep calm. Then something else, something overwhelming, a kind of awe that ran through my whole body. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. It had felt like something passed by me, cold, almost like a snake brushing past. The trees had seemed alive with whispers, voices I couldn't quite make out. Then it was like my soul had lifted out of me, light expanding, flashes of light shooting through me, like something guiding me. After that, everything blurred. I only remember the sky seeming to breathe, like giant pipes of sound and voices, countless voices, rolling over me. It had been too much. My body had given out, and had fallen into sleep, only to later awake, strengthened with renewed spiritual knowledge and intelligence from on high. He spoke about the power people had forgotten, about faith that had gone dormant, about healing, prophecy, understanding, things buried like treasures no one had bothered to dig up. The temple's been neglected, he said. Everything's worn down, rotting, silent. It's like people have forgotten what it was meant to be. His voice sharpened. Maybe it's time something woke us up. A split second later, there was a sound of thunder, and a huge section of rock broke loose and crashed down with a deafening roar. Dust shot into the air. People screamed, stumbled back, and some dropping to their knees. What was that? Is this the end? Prophet, someone shouted. Then others picked it up. A prophet! A prophet! David stood there, pale but steady. Don't be afraid. He called out, the same power that broke that rock can break through everything that's hardened in you. He shook his head slightly. This isn't about me. Believe in what's possible. He pointed out toward them. Stop settling for what's shallow. There's more, something real, something alive. Thunder rolled overhead. Lightning flashed across the sky. The crowd surged with energy now. Fear, excitement, belief, all mixing together. Listen to what's inside of you, David said, his voice rising over the noise. That voice, that's where the truth is. He spread his arms. Let it grow, let it move. Bring light into the dark places. Let it change everything. The wind picked up, pushing through the valley. Larger drops of rain started to fall. Something new is coming, he said. Something greater than what you've known before. The storm broke fully. Then wind, thunder, rain, and the crowd erupted, shouting, caught up in the energy that surrounded them.